Hello and welcome to another edition of Wellbeing, your one source for important health discussions. I'm your host, my name is Mary Joseph, and today we are shining a spotlight on a topic that affects millions of people, especially Nigerians worldwide. Malaria is a mosquito-borne disease that continues to claim millions of lives every year, with about 97% of the Nigerian population being at risk. But in recent developments, it seems to be that Nigeria is ready to step up its fight against this disease. The National Agency for the Food and Drugs Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has approved the provisional use of the R21 malaria vaccines, becoming the second country after Ghana in the world to grant such approval. The vaccine, R21 Matrix Malaria Vaccine, is developed by the University of Oxford and manufactured by the Serum Institute of India, and according to NAFDAC, the vaccine is indicated for the prevention of malaria in children from 5 months to 36 months of age, adding that Nigeria expects to get at least 100,000 doses of the vaccine in donation soon before the market authorization will start making other arrangements with the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. And in fighting malaria, the R21 vaccine is the second ever to be approved by the World Health Organization and the first to exceed the World Health Organization threshold of 75% efficacy over 12 months of follow-up. Now the vaccine shows a 77% protective efficacy over 12 months in a phase of 2B trial involving young West African children following the initial 3-dose course of injections. Now, following the series of developments, there have been some speculations about its efficacy, safety, and to address some of the misconceptions surrounding the newly approved vaccine being circulated in the state, I have my guest, who is an environmental toxicologist and malaria vector researcher, and he would be joining me to dissect some of these issues. Do remember to be a part of this family by following us on all our social media platforms at Spectrum TV, or you can visit our website at spectrumtv.ng to be a part of this family. Now let's just quickly go on a short break. We'll be right back.
Good health, they say, is something you can't buy. But the decision to live healthy is a choice that you have to make. Join health practitioners from diverse health fields as they provide you with vital information to help your day-to-day health decisions on Wellbeing, your wellness talk show. Wellbeing airs every Monday, 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Spectrum TV.
You're welcome back to the show. It's still the program Wellbeing, your wellness talk show that is designed to keep you health conscious. Do remember to follow us on all our social media handles at Spectrum TV, or you can visit our website at spectrumtv.ng to be a part of this family. Before we went on that short break, I introduced our topic for discussion, and today on Wellbeing we would be talking about the newly approved malaria vaccine as one of the interventions aimed at curbing the malaria scourge in Nigeria. And to shed more light on this issue, my guest is Dr. Ekpo Indifreke Daniel. He is an environmental toxicologist and malaria vector researcher, currently a lecturer in the Department of Animal and Environmental Biology, University of Uyo. He is also a team member consulting for the Vector Link Nigeria project that is involved in malaria vector surveillance and insecticide resistance monitoring in Akwa Ibom State.
Malaria is something that is in the common palace, known to all of us, because I'm sure there is nobody that does not make that assumption or even get to the hospital and is being told you have malaria. Sometimes there are symptoms that come to you and you assume that malaria is what is your problem. Now, what really is malaria? Malaria is a parasitic infection. It's actually been caused by a parasite in the genus, scientifically known as Plasmodium. Basically, for human malaria, because even animals also suffer malaria, for human malaria, there are basically 4 of these species of parasites that are known to be responsible for causing malaria in humans. And those are the Plasmodium falciparum, which is the most common one, particularly in this part of the world. We have the Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium malariae, Plasmodium ovale. But recently, there is also a report which one could attribute to things like environmental changes and climate change and all of that, contributing to some of these things, where a new malaria parasite has been shown to also cause malaria in humans. And that is the one that is being described as Plasmodium noreste. It used to be something that affects only monkeys, but today it has been shown that it's also a human malaria parasite. So what happens in malaria is that the mosquito, called female Anopheles mosquito, is very, very instrumental to the transmission of this disease called malaria. Meaning that if there is no mosquito, or if mosquito is not given the opportunity of carrying these parasites from one person to another, there would be no malaria in a community. That means the community would, to some extent, be free of malaria if we are able to ensure that mosquito does not carry it from an infected person to another person. But are we saying we should take away mosquitoes completely in the ecosystem? No. If you do that, you've also caused what we call an imbalance in the ecosystem. So in which case, the ecosystem needs mosquito. Mosquito is not the culprit here. Mosquito on its own is not supposed to cause any problem. It only comes to you for a blood meal because it needs that blood to develop its eggs for progression. But in the course of coming to you, you've actually has already gotten the parasite in you. So in course of picking the blood, it picks the parasite along with it. So after maybe making use of the blood meal and is looking for the next blood meal, it goes to the next available person. Already the parasite it picks from you is in the mosquito. So in the course of doing that, it gives to another person. That's why we say mosquito is a vector. That is, it carries these causative agents from one person to another. So vaccine. In fact, almost all the diseases, if we had vaccines for all of them, it would have solved 90% of the world's problem when it comes to disease management and reduction of morbidity. Because vaccine is that would try to trigger your system, trigger your body to get you prepared that something is coming in the future. So that if it eventually comes, your body is already prepared. The soldiers of your body, what we refer to as the leukocytes or the white blood cells, they're already prepared. The immune system is already put in place to get ready. Now, in the case of this immune system, there is, I'm trying to use a word that would be very, that would be applicable to everybody. But, there are things we call antibodies. Antibodies are normally generated in your body whenever your body is challenged by an infection or challenged by a parasite like Plasmodium parasite or any other thing that would have caused infection to your body. So your body has that inbuilt potential of generating antibodies in order to face these strange elements that have come into your system to cause problem. So where your immune system is compromised, it simply means those things that have come into your body would have a way of causing morbidity, causing disease, and all of that. So what a vaccine naturally does is that a vaccine gives your body that ability of developing these antibodies and keeping them with you, so that by the time in the future you are exposed to such disease or such an infection or such an agent, what we call pathogen, such an agent that causes a problem, what you may call pathogen. It could be a bacteria, it could be a fungi, it could be a parasite like a protozoan parasite that is, in the case of malaria now, the parasite is a protozoan. It could also be an helminth that is in your system. So any of these people that are capable of causing problem to you, causing disease to you, are what I'm referring to as a pathogen. So your body develops this immunity just to prepare in case they come in the future. So if you do that, you are being described as getting vaccinated. The good news is that as we speak, there is a vaccine that is already in the market, which has been approved by WHO, that it can be deployed. Even though the age limit that they say it could be used for is restricted, but at least it gives hope. The beautiful part of it is also that the age limit is even the most vulnerable when it comes to malaria. I mean, children below age of 5 and all of that. So these vaccines that are, very promising today are actually meant to target that age bracket, which is also a good news. Vaccines generally in malaria are majorly categorized into three, what I would call three groups or three stages. Efforts have been made in trying to see how all of these can be developed in such a way that they will be targeting different stages of the development of these parasites. But each time that is done, it fails because of the frenzy nature of the parasite. The parasite has a very complex nature, ranging from the life cycle, if I want to go into that, which is very technical, ranging from the life cycle to the diversity in the genetic makeup of the parasites. It's not like every other thing that seems to have, what I may call a one-way kind of a gene arrangement. In the case of malaria parasite, as small as it may look, it has so many genes on its DNA that are doing several things, expressing different proteins, going molecular now, producing different proteins. These proteins that are being produced, some of them are supposed to act like the reason for triggering the immune system to produce antibodies, because these proteins are being seen as antigens in the system. So they are supposed to trigger your antibody to produce these antibodies, trigger your immune system to produce these antibodies against this parasite. But the nature of malaria parasite is that the process of their life cycle is so confusing to the immune system in such a manner that these proteins are being expressed at a frequency that the immune system cannot easily detect it. So the antigens type A will come today. In the next few seconds, it changes to another type. Next few seconds, it changes to another type. It doesn't steady. So as a result of that, the immune system is kind of deceived. It's not being allowed to really detect it, as it were. So a normal vaccine is supposed to be something that carries this type of protein exogenously. That is, I'm preparing it in the lab. So this protein now is, for instance, the polio virus. It's easy to manage polio using vaccine. It's easy to manage diphtheria using vaccine. Tetanus, what do you call it? Is it tetanus? They used to call it ES. You can take, there's a vaccine for it, because either it is a virus or a bacteria, and being a bacteria, you can actually leverage on a particular protein that is being produced by this bacteria as an antigen, and maybe synthesize that in the lab, or use an attenuated form of the cell. Attenuated form means that you've actually caused the cell, the bacterial cell, not to have that part of causing the infection. You've been able to remove that infectivity, but the whole organism is still there. You now use that and inoculate. You use that gift to somebody, and the person having that particular bacteria in the system, the bacteria still has the potential of generating that protein because the gene is still there. Are you with me? So in the course of doing that, the body can actually identify that protein coming from this bacteria that you have removed infectivity, and then generate antibodies that can now prepare for future encounter for that kind of a bacteria. That means you have prepared a vaccine. But in the case of malaria parasite, it's not like that. This, you can do that with a particular set of proteins and cause the immune system to generate that. But by the time the parasite enters the body, it changes at very high frequency in terms of the type of proteins that it expresses. So you cannot really target it. So you have a situation where trying to look at the stages of development, we have what we call the pre-erythrocytic vaccines. Those are the vaccines that you are trying to target the liver stages, because the way the parasite works is that as soon as the mosquito releases the sporozoites, that is, the mosquitoes are part of where these parasites develop. The parasite has two places that it tends to develop. Develops in mosquitoes, develops in humans. Are we together? So when it is developing in mosquitoes, mosquito would end up producing what is called sporozoites in its saliva. So in the course of coming to bite you, to take blood meal, it releases the sporozoite into your body. It flows through your bloodstream and then gets to your liver. In your liver, it has entered what we call the pre-erythrocytic stage. So they have tried to develop vaccines that can block that, block the development in that pre-erythrocytic stage, which actually is not has not been very successful. Then we also have the blood stage vaccines. The blood stage vaccines is that when the parasite has gone through development in the liver, it will now leave the liver, enter your blood. In the blood, it would infect the red blood cells. Are we together? That is exactly where these symptoms of malaria now comes, and you now say, oh, I'm having fever, I'm having headache, I'm having pains all over my body and all of that, because it has gone to the blood stage. Are we together? So now there are vaccines that have also been developed trying to target the blood stage. Now the last one is the one that is targeting development in the mosquito directly. There are vaccines that have been developed to target development of this parasite in the mosquito, so that if you can curtail it such that it doesn't allow the malaria parasite to develop in the mosquito, it means that mosquitoes can actually bite without transmitting the parasite that would cause the malaria infection. Now, the one I was talking about, which is promising today, is RTSS. The RTSS. I'm happy you know about it. So, so the RTSS is the one that is giving us hope.
So which one would differ to the RTSS? You said
that's erythrocytic. That is the blood stage. Even though the RTSS works by looking at a particular protein that is called the circumsporozoid protein.
Can you break that?
Okay, the circumsporozoid protein is CSP. You must have come across something called CSP. Now, like I said before, all these things that are causing infection in one way or the other, whether it is a bacteria or a fungi or a parasite, one of the ways they are able to do that is that they are able to express certain antigens, certain proteins on their cells. Are you with me? Those things that they express on their cells naturally as part of their life, some of the things are capable of causing problem to the host. Are we together? Sometimes they generate not just expressing as proteins on the cells, they are even able to produce some toxins. Produce some toxins. These are also proteins, some of them proteins, that are released, and it gets to the host, becoming a problem to the host, causing the disease that we experience. Now, one of the such proteins that is expressed in malaria parasite, on the membrane of the malaria parasite, is what you call the circumsporozoid protein, CSP. So if you now develop a vaccine by simply telling your immune system, this thing that is coming in is coming in with the CSP. So develop or produce antibodies that can attack CSP, anything carrying CSP. CSP is unique for malaria parasites. So develop antibodies that can attack CSP. It simply means that if I have an attenuated malaria parasite, that the CSP is still there, and I now use it to vaccinate somebody. Are you with me? It simply means I have caused the immune system of that person to recognize it and produce antibodies that would attack that. abuse of drugs is the reason today why we have a whole lot of resistance in everything. The malaria parasite that were before now susceptible to chloroquine, say chloroquine was the magic wine, and it got to a point they say chloroquine can no longer work, and we now say, oh God, thank you, there is something called ACT. ACT came in and we all praise God for ACT. Today, there are reports documented that ACT, malaria parasites have developed resistance to ACT. Why so? Because naturally in Africa, whenever we have this issue of headache, fever, that would have been caused by any other thing, not malaria parasites, we conclude within ourselves that what is our problem is malaria. So we now go to the chemist, buy malaria drug, take it at will. You follow what I'm saying? When you do that, what drives resistance in a population of whatever is overexposure. So overexposure would always result in the mutation in the gene of the organism, because the organism coming in would see an environment that is having something that it would try to adjust in order to fit in. So in order to adjust, the genes would experience mutation. So the organism now becomes resistant to that thing but if that thing was not there, the organism comes in and is only experiencing it when it has entered your body. There will be no room for that adjustment, trying to adapt. There will be no room for that. So resistance would not really be an issue. So the way we abuse drugs, take drugs at will without going for a test, you're just going to taking drugs and all of that, contributes a lot to why we're having resistance, whether it is in the antibiotics that we take, whether it is in the malaria parasites or malaria infection that we are taking for malaria and all of that. So the same thing would definitely be what I may refer to as the fears, the future of RTSS. Apart from people saying, I don't want to take it, my culture does not permit this kind of acceptance. A lot of awareness, educating the public, probably, and what you are doing right now, what Spectrum TV is doing. When you go into public health related stuff like this, you are adding value to the environment, you are adding value to public health, you are adding value to life. So if you keep doing what you are doing and it triggers down, even the people that are, at the rural areas, they have a way of having access to such information like this, that you have said, going beyond your cultural practices, going beyond your religious practices, going beyond whatever belief you tend to have, that some of these healthcare facilities that are put in place to assist us is for our own good. It's not for us to just be stereotyped, stick to whatever we believe in, and say, no, we cannot be part of it. At the end of the day, it affects the nation. Because when you don't have a very productive nation, today people are sick, this one is sick here and there, and you contributed to why you are sick. Vaccines should be something that should be a magic wine, if I should put it that way. Because, of course, tell me when last you heard that people were really having issues with whether chicken pox or smallpox, they used to call it. Because there is a way that these things have been, or even polio. Out of carelessness, you hear people having polio. That is why let me just maybe point this. When you hear of polio incidents, nothing. Why? Because this same problem of religious belief, you don't need to come into the yard to do vaccination. We don't allow you and all of that. When that happens, it creates that scenario where the children are not vaccinated and they grow with it. And when maybe they get exposed to the virus, because there was no preparation of the immune system to get ready to, but these vaccines are there. Just because of the belief system, they don't allow them to come in. So it becomes a problem. Prevention is better than cure. Yes. So if you want to prevent malaria, you want to stop malaria from even happening, a better option would have been the vaccines, but it is not available. Since it is not available, what then do we do? Do we wait when we are down with malaria? We keep on taking these drugs. Let me inform you that even the drugs, no matter how good they are in taking care of malaria, they are also having adverse effects. The liver and every other cells of your body. So what that simply means, especially when you don't even take them rightfully, and you don't even take them when you are supposed to take them, that is, you are not even sure that it is malaria. You just went, get the drugs, and take at will. You take this week, next week you take again, you say, this thing I'm seeing is malaria. So it brings in all of that. So what do? We now revert to the environment. What can we do to our environment to ensure that some of these things are being curtailed? We can prevent malaria by ensuring that we don't give room for these mosquitoes to breed. We don't give room for them to breed. Because now that we've known that what is transmitting the parasite, it doesn't cause it, but it's transmitting it. What is transmitting it is mosquitoes. It's for us to now look at how can we now curtail. You may not completely remove mosquitoes from the ecosystem. How can we curtail it so that the mosquitoes available will not contribute to the high, prevalence of the malaria disease? Are you with me? How can we do it? You now realize that since these people are very comfortable breeding in stagnant water, very comfortable breeding in bushes and all of that, and very comfortable breeding in pockets of tires or containers that you just left in open dump sites and all of that, we now rethink that we need to have what we call environmental re-engineering. We have to re-engineer our environment. The way we dispose our waste must be given a second thought, knowing too well that keeping these things the way they are would give room for these people to breathe. And when they breathe, it would increase the prevalence of the malaria in the environment. So that is where your mention of insecticides now come in, mention of the INS come in, where you now make use of those nets that are normally distributed. But again, today, as we speak, those insecticides are misused, overused, abused. Overexposure would always lead to what? Resistance. Always, maybe take that home. Overexposure would always lead to what? Resistance. So being that these mosquitoes are overexposed to these insecticides, today, a lot of mosquitoes are no longer susceptible to the insecticides. So you will now notice that if you use your Red or Bacon or Mobile or any of them that is pyrethroid based, after spraying, late in the night, you must have been comfortable that the mosquitoes would go. Late in the night, the mosquito will still bite you, or you still hear mosquito sound. Where are they coming from? When you've actually done what you were supposed to do. It's because the mosquitoes have developed resistance. The same thing happens with your nets. The nets are normally, the ones that are distributed today, are normally impregnated with insecticides. They are not just to protect, they are not just to serve as barrier. Apart from serving as barrier, physical barrier, they also help in ensuring that whatever mosquito lands on it is supposed to die because there are insecticides on those nets. But today, with or without nets, mosquito population or mosquito density in an environment is still very high, despite the distribution of nets. Why so? Because the mosquitoes have learned to develop resistance to these nets. What are the alternatives? Alternatives are there. Biological control, environmental re-engineering, as I said before. Are we together? And several other things that you can just do. Simple things that you and I can do to just ensure that these mosquitoes don't breed to give that kind of a high population that would increase the prevalence of the disease. Whatever time is given for the period of exposure, or whatever time is given for the routine for a particular drug may not apply across board. So what is important is that whatever time is given for as a routine for a drug must be stick to. You must stick to it. If the physician, the doctor said, this drug you are going to take 8 hourly, you have to time yourself that you must take it 8 hourly. You don't say, oh, I forgot. That is also abuse. After 8 hours, you now come to take after 12 or you've abused the drug. So what happens is that if you know it's not going to be that easy for you to maintain that routine, you now look for a drug that they would simply tell you, okay, you can take at your comfort, one in the morning, one in the evening. And I'm sure the doctor would also want to tell you the one in the morning, one in the evening is around when you take around this time, this is when you are taking the next dosage. Are we together? If you stick to that, it means you are actually trying to avoid abusing the drug. Any pharmaceutical company that is into drug development must have what we call R&D units or departments, research and development departments. So when you are envisaging a particular brand or a particular product and you think it will be better off than what is available, you must come up with certain things. One, you must be able to establish the toxicity of that you are trying to push into the market. In addition to that, you must be able to establish the best way that it can be applied. That goes to the timing of the thing. So you see them go through a lot of researches, a lot of laboratory analysis and all of that in order to understand that if this thing is taken within this kind of a period, it gives you the best of results. So, and that is definitely attached to the content or the label on the drug itself. So at the end of the day, even the doctors who are prescribing it are being schooled by these pharmaceutical companies that this is what this drug is supposed to offer if it is actually applied this way. So the doctors, they understand and they now help in making sure that their patients are given the best of medical care by adhering to whatever is coming from these companies. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's not just something that is being done haphazardly. You just produce whatever you like and push into the market. So those early thing is not, oh, every malaria drug should be 8 hours. No. My own company can produce a product that 8 hours is good enough. Another company can produce a product that would tell you, take once a day. Just once a day. It doesn't need 8 hours. So they have done their research. They have seen what is the best approach to it, and then they push that into the market. You know, self-medication is what is being, is the worst thing that anybody should engage in. It's the worst thing. In fact, if it is possible, whenever you have symptoms that you think that are malaria related, if it is possible, not even if it is possible, always see it as a responsibility that you have for your health. Go first for a test and ensure that you have gotten the test result that says that they have seen plasmodium. They call it, what do they call it? PFAB? MP. That's what they call it in the labs, MP. You go for MP test, that's malaria parasite test, and let it be established at that level that you have malaria. Yes, you can now go to a pharmacy if you don't have the money to go to a hospital to meet a doctor. You can go to a pharmacy, present the whatever to the pharmacist. He would understand how to look at it and say, okay, this malaria drug will be good enough for you. Because I know the problem we have in this country is that of poverty. Yes. A lot of people don't have the money to access healthcare. So when you say somebody should go to the hospital, who pays for it? It becomes a problem. But somebody can easily put hand in his pocket, maybe get 1,000 naira, walk into a lab and carry out malaria typhoid analysis because of how you are feeling. So instead of just walking into the pharmacy to start buying drugs, walk into the lab first, get the results, and then you can now say, that little money I have, since I cannot access a doctor, let me go to a pharmacist who would be able to help me out with a better option on what to do. But ideally, it is not right to take that process of getting results from the lab, moving to a pharmacist. It is not their job. But what will you do when you live in a country where we are so impoverished? Are you what I'm saying? Instead of completely doing what is wrong, you can actually do that which would still give you succor. Because the ideal thing would have been you go to the hospital, see a doctor, the doctor now tells you, go to the lab. You now go to the lab, and from the lab, you go back to him, he now decides on what to give to you. So because it doesn't work that way because of the economy situation, you can actually take this route that would be easier for you. So the vaccines, like I said before, thank God that it has been deployed today, and even though the age limit is still restricted, I would only encourage us to accept it, because a lot of researches have been done on it. RTSS came in a long time ago. It's not this 2023 that it was approved. So it has gone through stages of clinical trials. They have done a lot of clinical trials here and there, and have been able to establish that it is good enough. In fact, I think the last time I heard it, they said it was 70% efficacy, which is a very good mark, if I should put it that way. So what that means is that if in any way you're opportune that it comes to your area and they say we are coming for malaria vaccination, you open up, allow the children to come and access this wonderful intervention, because at the end of the day, you would have a community where malaria is no longer a problem. Just like smallpox is not a problem, polio is not a problem, and all of that because of the availability of vaccines. So it's a good development in malaria horizon, if I would put it that way.
So that was Dr. Ekpo Indifreke Daniel. He is an environmental toxicologist and malaria vector researcher, and we were talking about the newly approved malaria vaccine as one of the interventions designed to curb the scourge of malaria in Nigeria. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Do remember to always be a part of this family by following us on all our social media platforms at Spectrum TV, or you can visit our website at spectrumtv.ng. Until next time, remember that with continued research and collaboration, we all can make a world without malaria a reality. My name is Mary Joseph. Do enjoy the rest of today's broadcast.